Meeting.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pursuant to recently adopted amendments to the Illinois Open Meetings Act included in Public Act 101-0640, public bodies may, in certain circumstances, hold entirely virtual public meetings without a quorum physically present in any one location. Governor Pritzker's executive order of October 2022-01 has extended this provision through today's date. As co-chair of the Council for Inclusion and Community, I have made the determination that it is not practical nor prudent to meet in person at this time. Accordingly, this meeting of the Council for the Inclusion and Community is being conducted virtually with members participating through the Zoom webinar platform. Assistant Village Manager Sharon Tanner is in the Village Hall conference room as required by the Open Meetings Act.
All right. I can call the roll. One moment. Okay, Co-Chair Guzman,
Present.
Co-Chair Scott, Co-Chair Bjork, or Member Bjork. Sorry, I just promoted you, John.
Well, thank you for that. Present.
Okay, Member Evans,
Present.
Member Flanagan,
Here.
Member Kirk McKenzie. She's absent today. Member Molly.
Here.
Member Moses. Member Mizell.
Here. Yep.
Member Robbins. She's absent today. Member Rubin
Here.
and Member Young.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Well, I think on the agenda we have to do first is, I apologize, I forgot all my notes. It's the approval of last month's minutes.
August 3rd, and I would just note that there's a Scrivener's error. I had incorrectly noted the date at the start of the meeting in those minutes, so that'll be corrected.
With such correction noted, so move.
I second.
All right. Co-Chair Guzman. Yep.
I believe what's next on the agenda, Sharon? I apologize. I don't have my notes
Oh,
in front of
sorry,
me.
no, we're voting on the meeting minutes, so I'll do a roll call vote. Sorry, I should have asked that.
Yes.
Okay. See, Hillary's not on yet. Member Bjork,
Yes.
Member Evans,
Yes.
Member Flanagan,
Yes.
Member Molly,
Yes.
Member Moses,
Yes.
Member Mizell,
Yes.
Member Rubin,
Yes.
and Member Young.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is public comment. I'm checking to see if any comments were submitted. We do have one member of the public signed in. So if you would like to make a comment, you can hit the raise hand button. We are also taking comments by email that were submitted before the meeting began. And I did get an email for a member of the public who is looking to join, and I will send that to him as we're speaking. Okay. And I don't think that there are any public comments. Okay, one moment. Oh, I do not see any. Okay. The next item on the agenda then was updates on council activities and initiatives, to have a recap of summer events and activities, and then discussion about upcoming activities and initiatives.
One of the last events that we did attend was the farmers market, which we some of us got to enjoy the rainbow ice cream truck. Myself, Hillary, and Bob were there passing out blow pops as well as flyers, and also on the part of the agenda was spreading the word on the Glencoe Historical Society's new exhibit that's coming up. If I recall correctly, I believe the exhibit starts on the 22nd of September. This is a exhibit concentrating on, I believe it's the Black heritage, if I recall correctly, the correct title of the exhibit. We are actively working with our fellow member of the council, the pastor, to implement not only spreading the word of this exhibit, but also perhaps tying in with the exhibit a featured speaker as part of our speaking series because of the integral history that the church has in the village of Glencoe. The last farmers market meeting was fairly successful. We strategically placed ourselves in front of the rainbow ice cream truck to interact with as many adults and kids as possible. From off the top of my head, I believe we interacted with over 20 families, passed out well over 25 bands, 25 blow pops. A couple of kids came in, got seconds. Overall, it was a successful event. Aside from that, I don't know if anyone else has any other recap as far or anything they want to add as far as what was done in the months of June and July and August. But as far as I can recall off the top of my head, that is a summation of the last item that we did as a council. Anyone else have a comment?
I'll just,
I would just add to that, Raphael, that Amy and I are continuing to make progress on a speaker for what looks like will be an event if everyone's on board with it in January or February. We connected with the individuals I one of the individuals I referenced on the last meeting, who is willing to talk about his experience as a refugee and sponsoring refugees in communities, and how inclusiveness and diversity are important to folks in that situation. And he seems very interested in doing it. It's just a matter of ironing out the scheduling, but subject to approval of the folks on the committee. Amy and I plan to move forward with kind of working on the logistics of lining that up.
What I miss, Raphael. Sounds like you guys
Go
got
ahead.
a lot done in 8 minutes.
Hey there, Haley. No. We were just going over the recap of summer events and activities. We discussed how we were at the last farmers market in front of the rainbow ice cream, how we spoke to, I thought it was about 20, 25 families in total. Also, I spoke about the fact that we were promoting the Glencoe Historical Society's new exhibit of I believe the exhibit's called Black Heritage.
Yeah.
And that exhibit opens up, I believe, September 22nd, if I recall correctly.
September 17th. And I have a PowerPoint with all this stuff. Sorry, I should have said that. But I feel like I just got nervous when John started talking about the speaker series, and I was like, oh no, we have a whole, you have the forum the whole time.
No, we haven't. No. And that was just something that John was talking about, a future event. Obviously, we think that is a incredibly important topic, and to move forward with it, Hillary and I will speak with perhaps Writers Theater to see if they're willing to host us, and to talk about how to promote that event. But as far as I just asked if anyone else had any comments or reviews about things that we put on over the summer, and considering the tragedy of July 4th. And that's when John was speaking about the series coming up in January. That's where we're at.
Okay, perfect. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened?
No. We're not that fast.
Yes,
So,
sorry to jump the gun on that.
No jumping the gun. I was just like so impressed with your efficiency. And now I feel like it's going to be a little bit redundant, but I did have a PowerPoint just because I feel like there's been a lot of ground covered since the last time we all met. And more to the point, I feel like there's just a lot going on, and Raphael and I need help. So it's kind of a summary of where we are and where we hope to go, most of which should sound familiar. And then sort of a help wanted portion where I'm hoping we can get some of you to jump in. So
I guess
is this?
If anyone else doesn't have any other additional comments or anything regarding a recap of summer events, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a huge part of today's meeting, in my opinion, the upcoming activities and initiatives. As Hillary noted, we've been, we met with the head of the Glencoe Historical Society, as well as with Pastor Kay, in regards to this phenomenal exhibit. And just to give you guys a preview of it, in that meeting, I learned a great deal regarding the history of the village of Glencoe. I didn't know that a Tuskegee Airman was from Glencoe. I also didn't know that was it the naval admiral, one of the first African American leaders in the Navy, was from Glencoe. There's also one of the first Black Marines and drill instructors is from Glencoe. So the hour and a half meeting that we had was incredibly eye-opening, and it was a great segue for us to get involved into promoting this exhibit, but also promoting it that it is a history of Glencoe. It is something that perhaps not many of us know, perhaps some of us know but didn't share, but the exhibit is going to incorporate scenes from the church, personal stories, as well as the history of those that lived here well before us. And that's why when we brought this up last month, we thought it was a phenomenal way to introduce someone as far as a speaker series to build off and to grow off of the exhibit that's coming forth this month. With that, Hillary, I didn't know you prepared a PowerPoint, and I'm not going to say I'm surprised that you did, but I'm happy that you did.
I'm not trying to make anyone look like a jerk. I needed the PowerPoint for my own sanity because there's so much happening and I was like, I feel like I'll start talking about this and then I'll go in circles and it'll just be better for everyone if we just lay it out. So again, probably a little bit redundant, but as always with an eye towards the Historical Society exhibit, we have to look backwards a little bit to look forward. So I will share my screen. Hold on, let me just do one thing really quickly. I'll get, are you guys hearing my son's piano lesson? Sorry. It's just nothing but fun here at 525 Greenleaf. Play from start. Ugh. Okay, wait, got it. Here, share. Play from start. Okay, here we are. You can tell I spent a lot of time on the design. I picked one of the ones that was available to me. So I wanted to reference this sort of document that we'd looked at together in April because we'd all sort of come to consensus around this stuff. And you don't have to like read this whole thing right now. It should just be like a refresher of where we started. And then I'm going to go through each one of these kind of point by point. And we'll see where we've been and hopefully where we're going. So this is where we started. And here is where we are. So as Raphael said, we did all of these holiday celebrations. And so we don't need to belabor that point. And then I also listed just volunteers because thank you, volunteers. And we need more of you. So as you know, we spent a lot of the time in the June, I guess it was the May meeting talking about the graphic identity. We ended up, I think, kind of getting bogged down in that process, probably my fault because I sort of wanted to try and get something done before, so that we could go to press for June Pride Month and 4th of July, events. And so instead, Sammy, our wonderful comms person, kind of stepped in and came up with this temporary, but I don't know how temporary it needs to be, logo. I do think it warrants a little discussion just to see if this is something we want to circle back to down the road. That's completely fine. I wanted to acknowledge that we have it, that we've been using it, that we get a lot of nice comments about it, but it isn't what we ultimately worked on as a group. And so if that's something that feels important to you all, we can revisit it, but it will need some shepherding. So, okay. Then we talked about having a better relationship with the Glencoe Clergy Association and St. Paul's AME. I think Raphael already covered the Glencoe Historical Society piece, Glencoe's Black Heritage. But I also wanted to note our participation in this interfaith vigil and the interfaith service on July 10th, July 7th, and July 10th in response to the Highland Park shootings. And from that came an ongoing now conversation with North Shore United Methodist Church. I don't know what everyone knows and doesn't know. So just by way of explanation, Barb Javor, who heads up North Shore United Methodist, is also the head of the Glencoe Clergy Association. And so she connected us with her racial justice group. And from there, we have been in conversation pretty consistently with those guys around, potential partnership. They're very interested in promoting this Glencoe's Black Heritage exhibit. And so with an eye towards that event at the end of October, the panel discussion in response to Glencoe's Black Heritage, they will likely be partners in that as well. So again, just better relationships with our local places of worship. I don't think we need to go into the 4th of July, but we did participate in the farmers market twice this summer. And we did develop a really nice relationship, mostly as a function of our time at the at the farmers market. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, my dog is eating something. No, what are you doing? Stop it. Sorry, I just needed to make sure it wasn't like a computer. Okay, it's just Starbucks cup. Anywho, the conversation with the Glencoe Park District really kicked off in earnest through our participation in the farmers market. So I really kind of want to emphasize that in addition to having conversations with constituents, the majority of which, in fact, almost all of which were overwhelmingly positive, I'll note, and I do have the data on that if anyone's wondering, but those encounters at the farmers market and elsewhere also really helped kick off or move along these relationships with our other village partners like the Park District. And so, on the first farmers market that we went to, they all came out. And in that moment, I was able to touch base with Lisa, their director, and the gentleman who manages the Kickback at Calk events and also the village games for July 4th. And so much of that conversation, including how we came to be at the 4th of July games, came from those encounters. So there's like a lot of cross-pollination happening, which I just think is sort of important to highlight. And we couldn't do that without all of you coming and sitting with me in the sun and next to the rainbow cones and talking to the 8th graders. So thank you. Again, along the same line, strengthen relationship with key stakeholders. So there are some things germinating with Family Service of Glencoe, including but not limited to what I've listed here. There are members of their staff who have been certified in mental health first aid training, and they have suggested that perhaps that's something that we could do as a committee, which I think there might be an argument for. So we can discuss that more in depth. This is just an overview. And then also coming out of the farmers market, the gentleman who manages the farmers market is working to establish a SNAP or EBT payment option at the Glencoe Farmers Market. This is something that Family Service would need to implement, and it's something that I believe they're already working on, but obviously in terms of inclusivity, something that we would want to support. So that's kind of more of a fledgling conversation, but something that you all should be aware of. And again, with that cross-pollination, something that came out of just kind of being around a lot this summer. In addition, I've reached out to the social studies department at Central School around our panel discussion and the Glencoe Historical Society exhibit. Again, mostly just wanting to make sure that they know that we're here, that we have, options available to them, and kind of weigh their appetite for these kinds of programs and see see what they think. So that conversation is ongoing. Also in terms of, relationship with stakeholders, Annie's did a beautiful column with William from Glencoe Youth Service. Unfortunately, William then left youth service, so we didn't publish it. But I think there were some really key learnings that came out of that interview, which we can again discuss in depth, maybe a little bit down the road. And also just a good example of a way that even though it didn't work out perfectly because William has now moved on, we're really making an effort to get in front of our stakeholders and let them know that we're here to help. Same goes with the Writers Theater. More to come on that further in the slideshow. And there's a list of other stakeholders in an upcoming slide in terms of all of these relationships are going to need help because Raphael and I can't manage it alone. And it's actually just not good for the council for us to manage it alone because what if one of us gets hit by a bus? Not planning to, but just sustainability is important. So speaker series, John and Amy, I hope you'll spend a little bit more time talking about the work that you've done because it's pretty incredible and it's been like entirely on your own. You guys had to just kind of go out and do this work, and what you came up with I think is really excellent. And also I think potentially a very nice follow-up to the conversations that I hope we will be promoting and supporting and participating in with Writers Theater, Glencoe Historical Society, St. Paul's, and ultimately just standalone GCIC speaker series down the road. I think there's a nice rhythm to some of these events and when they happen and the context of the conversations. And so I'm really excited that we could potentially produce like a calendar of GCIC sponsored or supported, or we'll figure out the wording on that, events beginning early October, well into the new year. So that includes the Glencoe's Black Heritage piece and an additional thing going on with Writers Theater that I can talk about more as we move along. Getting to know the heart of Glencoe column. Annie, I would love your thoughts on where we should go with this moving forward. We'll talk about that in Help Wanted. And then finally, something that we had discussed as a group back in April, newcomers events and or expats cultural exchange events to promote awareness of other cultures and facilitate better relationships between neighbors. Many of the things that we did this summer, I think, sort of attempt to access that, but we haven't really done that. We haven't really done this in earnest, but I do think there might be an option around this in the upcoming event with Writers Theater. So again, I'll come back to that as we move forward. No progress. These are the things we did not focus on in the last several months. So just in the interest of transparency, things we talked about doing that we haven't done. So either we can decide if we want to put them in the parking lot or if it's something we want to tackle moving, forward in the immediate future. So now here we are in the Help Wanted section. These are sort of our partners and initiatives. There's some overlap. So for example, with Family Service of Glencoe, there's the mental health training initiative that we talked about. There's the farmers market EBT thing that we talked about. There's also some overlap there with the Nurture Transition program, which is something we haven't yet discussed. For those of you who aren't aware, the property at the southwest corner of Hazel and Vernon, just catty corner from, or just across the street rather, from the dry cleaners, is recently become the permanent home of the Nurture Transition Project, which I think is a really exciting opportunity. Again, something that we explored with their staff on site when we were in the farmers market this summer. And they are eager to partner with us, if nothing else, to make Glencoe a more welcoming place for students with disabilities, or any of the folks that the Nurture Transition program serves. So we have a conversation teed up with the director of the program, who's located in Glencoe, and we were meant to meet in the beginning of August, but with everything happening after July 4th, we kicked that conversation down the road. And then she contacted me again this week, and I thought maybe it's better to have someone from the committee I'm happy to participate, or Raphael can participate, but it might be best to have someone else from the committee quarterback that if that's something that we think is a priority. So I'm looking at the other things on this list to see if there are things that require further explanation. Glencoe Sustainability Task Force, same thing. I meet with Barney Gallagher. Raphael and I both meet with Barney, have met with Barney, and I have met with him pretty regularly over the course of this summer. They are sort of our sister organization in terms of the way that the village structured. We have our board of trustees, and then we have these two committees kind of sitting underneath the board, and I think they're quite a bit further down the road than we, and so there are some great lessons that we can learn from them in terms of how they advance their mission and do the work. And Barney is just a wonderful helper and sort of mentor, and I think we would really benefit from that ongoing association. But again, there's just only so many hours in the day, so it might be best if somebody else could quarterback that relationship moving forward. So that's brings us to Help Wanted. So that was a lot, and again, probably a lot of redundancy with what Raphael said, but any initial sort of thoughts, comments, questions about anything you've seen in the PowerPoint or on this Help Wanted section? Otherwise, I think we should dig into it.
The only thing that I could add was that, Sharon, I think you said next week is Glencoe Schools has an open night or welcome to Glencoe event for new families. The question was given to us as a group if we want someone there or some of us there as a representative. I think it would be a good idea to have someone there. And I apologize, Sharon. I had to leave in a rush. I didn't grab one. When is that?
It's on the 14th. I'm sorry. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Is it on the 14th? I think it starts at 4 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, at Central School. We could certainly get the details.
So
we
I'm
would
not
need some
available to do
volunteers.
that at all. I don't know, Raphael, where you landed with that.
I can be there. And 4 o'clock should be able to work for myself on the 14th, but I would greatly appreciate it if anyone else could come along. Or better yet, maybe just myself might be the best idea. Who knows? I'm kidding.
Okay, so we can add that to our Help Wanted. We need someone theoretically to partner with Raphael just on site, very similar to those farmers market outings where we just, talk about what we do and why it's important, and, hear from our constituents about what they like or think we could be doing better. Anyone available there is a special committee of the whole meeting that night starting at 6, so they don't technically overlap, I don't think, but I think it's just something that I know is on a lot of people's minds and agendas, so I'm calling that out. I have a JV soccer game I have to attend before that, and then the committee of the whole meeting at 6, so it's not a good day for me, but I do think it's a really important thing for someone to try and attend if they're willing to buddy up with Raphael. So
please check your calendars. Oh, go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Sharon, the meeting on the 14th, does that have to do with safety related issues in the village?
It's going to be a listening session regarding guns. I was going to mention this at the end of the meeting, but I can just mention it now. And Gary, do feel free to jump in. There will be a short presentation by the village attorney outlining the village's legal authority to regulate the possession or sale of guns, which is extremely limited. And then we'll talk a bit about some of the voluntary gun safety programs that the public safety department already has in place in the community and some of the community partnerships related to safety. And then there'll be an opportunity for the board to discuss and to take public comments as well.
And that is in person?
Yes, I think we're also working on a virtual option as well for that, but we'll post the details of that by this Friday.
So the 14th at 6 o'clock.
Correct.
Okay, fine. Raphael, let me check with my wife just now and see if I can join you. at 4
Sure,
o'clock.
no problem.
I'll be right back.
No-
And Sharon-
check your calendars and send me an email, but okay.
And that's at Central School, is that right, Sharon?
The school event for, or the PTO event for welcoming new families is at Central School.
Okay, perfect.
Let me double check that now that I've just said that. Now I'm second guessing myself.
I know, me too.
Else.
Like, which
Hang
event on
on.
the 14th are we talking about? There's two, both very important, but distinct events, distinct locations, distinct times. Both of which you should prioritize attending if you can. So I know, and Raphael, let me know if you need to, I know you have a to jump at some point. So is there anything you feel like you want to say before you have to run away?
Yeah, I do apologize. I have to, it's open house at Central School and go meet the teachers so that way they know who it is that's sending them nasty emails. That's so I have rather have them meet me in person so they know who it is. The only thing that we need to discuss is coming up in October. Our next meeting is scheduled, I believe it's on Yom Kippur.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
And we're not going to meet that day, but I think that, and I apologize, I'm behind on emails. I still believe that we should meet. So please just discuss that as to another date in October would be good for everybody. But with that, I do have to bow out. I apologize for leaving early. Please email me or call me if you guys have any questions or what's going to happen if anyone can be there on the 14th. So
Raphael,
Oh,
Raphael,
hey, Bob.
I can join you Wednesday, the 14th at 4 o'clock Central School.
All right, well, we gotta dress up as students, Bob. We gotta blend in. So get ready to. So I don't know if kids are wearing baggy clothes or what they're doing. I'll email you with some ideas.
I'll
Yeah,
put
you
on
guys can coordinate.
I'll put on my old Brooks Brothers clothes, okay?
That'll work. All
Okay.
right, everybody, have a great evening.
Bye, Raphael. Thank you.
So Hillary, could you send us that one page of the slide just because on the help wanted? I mean,
Yes.
not
I'm
the
just-
second, but
Yes.
break it out just so we can give further thought to where we think we line up.
Yeah, absolutely. I will send that out to you guys after the meeting. But I figured there's, I wish, do you want me to go back to sharing it? Just, we can sort of tick through these different things so that you can get like a top line summary. If this is useful, it's up to you. I can give you kind of a really top line summary of where these relationships stand and where sort of we think that they're headed. But if that's useful in terms of thinking about it.
I think it's just, it wouldn't hurt to see it again, but if you want answers now, then yeah, throw it up there. If you want them in a couple of days, then send it if you would.
I can't afford to be picky. None of the things, especially the sort of homeless items that, don't have anyone shepherding them right now, AKA the Glencoe Youth Services, Glencoe Park District, Neutral Transitions Program, the sustainability. I mean, the short answer is like, I'm not going to let these things like fall between the cracks, but I don't think that this way of doing things is going to be sustainable. So I'm trying to sort of find the things that match your interests, and then hopefully, we can share the responsibility a little bit more, just because I'm Raphael and I are only two folks. So we're in pretty deep at this point with the Historical Society St. Paul event. But I do think, as we've discussed in the past, that this is sort of fertile ground for sort of a storytelling, oral history tradition, however you care to characterize it, that sort of option that we've discussed in the past moving forward. It could be sort of a good test case in terms of the public's appetite and sort of our ability to pull this off. So while I don't know that we can have actually anyone else from the GCIC involved in the planning of that event, hopefully scheduled for the end of October, but our next meeting about it isn't until tomorrow. So I can't confirm that for sure, but we're looking at Sunday, October 23rd. But there's that related sort of oral history piece that Vivek had initially raised around, the human library. And I know in particular that the North Shore United Methodist Church Racial Justice Program is also interested in that oral history piece. So they're very related conversations. So it would be wonderful if someone with an interest in sort of moving that piece along maybe would step in either with North Shore United Methodist Racial Justice Program, or really, I think that's the main place. And then obviously we would keep you in close conversation around the October 23rd event as it relates to the Historical Society exhibit. Does that make sense? You all look like deer in the headlights.
It's a lot of stuff, Mums. And how about, can you say something about where things are at with Glencoe Youth Services? So Will is left. Are they have any prospects? Because what would that connection be?
Sharon?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yes, they have named a new executive director. It is Michelle. I don't want to get her last name incorrect.
I think it's Friedman.
Yes, I think you're right. Who is, I think, previously was previously part of the Glencoe Junior High project, if I'm not mistaken. So she is a familiar face.
And Anise, do you have anything to add about that in terms of related, unrelated, Glencoe Youth Services, or getting to know the heart of Glencoe? What is your appetite for continuing that? Would you like a helper? Sharon, any perspective on, initially the thinking was that we would try and organize these columns around sort of things happening in the community, or, sort of community celebrations, that kind of thing, like Pride Month. But I'm not sure that we, in the end, that really landed. Like, I think there were some concerns actually, maybe with highlighting something so closely with Pride Month, or with, or with Black History Month or whatever. So I'm not sure that that's going to continue, but again, all open for discussion. I'm really just a facilitator here, so I need to get your guys' feedback on that.
Hey, Anise, do you want to work with me with Glencoe Youth Services to kind of try to pick up the pieces there, given, we both knew Will, and I thought he was obviously a big asset to the village, but, and not that Michelle won't be, but just, I don't know, we both had a little connection there. If you have an interest, I would do it with you if you'd like.
Sure. Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, and as far as getting to know the heart of Glencoe, I mean, I'm happy to write it. I mean, I like doing it. I feel like, there's definitely been a, it's like I've gone on a long vacation or something. But yeah, it's disappointing that, the article that I wrote won't be out, but maybe there's a way that we can share it internally, and like, Hillary, take from whatever it was that, you and Raphael thought were, sage sections for us to know about and work with and think about in the work that we're doing. Yeah, I mean, I think what would be helpful, and Amy offered that, her husband does some very interesting work that maybe she can share if she, if you're willing. I have a few people to interview, but it's, it's always not, I think what I liked about it was when it was like just sort of holistic, right? It wasn't like, oh, there's a theme. I mean, I feel like when there's a theme, that a lot of times you're interviewing people that people know, right? Like they're leaders in the community that people know, that are involved in this particular topic or this particular passion or this particular subject. And at least my idea from the beginning was to kind of highlight people that we, maybe wouldn't know and feel more connected to like a larger semblance of community. Not that people that, you know, I still think there's value in interviewing people who own stores in Glencoe or are in positions of, people know them, but I would want to get the story that people don't know, that's sort of always my angle. Not that I lead it that way, but I think it just organically happens. And so I think I got a little nervous when it was going to be sort of subject and thematic because it just felt a little forced for me and my style. But if that's something that's important to the group, then it's something that I can adjust to. There's that. And then just the other thing I wanted to ask, and not bounce around too much, but with people that newly moved to Glencoe, like a million years ago, and maybe we've talked about this, and I'm sorry, I feel like we haven't met in a long time, even though we have, that when people moved to Glencoe, they would get like a welcome basket, and it would have like things in it that, were just sort of like a little bit of Glencoe swag, and just sort of like the different stores and, information and, like a magnet or something. And I know that I don't think that happens anymore. I don't think that's like a thing anymore. But it might be a nice thing to like pick up the slack with. We don't have to make it super elaborate. Where we just give those window clings or the, whatever, and like a note welcoming them, and just kind of, reiterating what our mission statement is and like what we agree to around living in Glencoe and our value system and what we're hoping to create as far as a community. I think that might be a nice way to welcome people. And if that's something that people are open to, like, I'm happy to, be a part of that with someone else. And kind of, I don't know how we get those lists, if we have access to those lists, Sharon, or how that works in terms of knowing people moving into Glencoe and people's privacy. I don't know the logistics of that, but that might be nice to do.
Some of the time we know when there are new residents. I say some of the time because we typically see that when new utility billing accounts are set up. Glencoe does not have a real estate transfer stamp or tax, so we don't see those transactions happening when property is sold, only when there are new utility billing accounts set up. So there may be rental arrangements where the tenant is not the utility bill account holder. So that's where I say some of the time we're able to identify when there are new residents, typically with the utility bills. In the past, I think the village used to send some basic information about village services to new residents. That's something we're continuing to dive into on our end. Prior to me starting with the village, there was a social group that was not affiliated formally with the village. I think it was called like the Glencoe
Newcomers Club. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That operated independently of the village. I don't know what they may have done in their capacity, but I don't know if that group is still very active.
No, I don't think it's a thing anymore, but they used to have like a big beach party. What happens at the beach stays at the beach. I'm not looking for any of that situation. I'm just looking for like a magnet and like welcome and like we're here for you, and if you want to get involved and that
Yeah,
too old for the beach.
And Margot, were you involved in something? I feel like you were involved in something along these lines at some point through the human relations.
No,
Am I making that up?
You and I talked about it at one of the farmers markets we worked at last year, and I think that would be a fantastic idea. If nothing else, that any new resident gets a note, ideally from a village trustee, welcoming them to Glencoe and letting them know how they can be involved in our community. And if not from a trustee, then from us. And I mean, other than the list I get in my magazine quarterly or monthly or whenever that comes, that tells us what the house sales in town have been, we have addresses there. But other than that, I think utility billing would be a better list. And I don't know if access to that is something that could be granted us.
If anything, what I'd rather we try to explore is how we can send some cohesive information to new residents. If there are things that we send out, sometimes we steer people to things that are available electronically rather than in hard copy form. So I can take that back as a follow-up for our staff to confirm what is being sent out or what we might send out in the future. I think that might be the best touch point, is if that's a cohesive package that comes from the village.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know if anyone else on the call wants to weigh in, but I'm really supportive of this. It was something I was really excited about before. There's been so many other things happening that it hasn't been something I can prioritize. But if Anise or maybe even Margot want to sort of start trying to shepherd that a little bit, I think it would be awesome.
I'd be happy to work on that. I probably will stick to the hopes that even if nothing else, then a handwritten note welcoming somebody to the community and asking them to please look out for an email that will contain information. But there is nothing like a handwritten note to make someone feel welcome.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Awesome. I will add
And to
that.
talk about our mission, I think that anywhere that in addition to services there, but I would hope not to lose the intent that Anise and Margot brought up, which is, hey, we are about welcoming people. We hope that will be something you feel, please, something more kind of empathic to go along with maybe some useful tools, but I would hope we don't lose the intent there.
I will also offer, although you don't have to take me up on it. I don't know. I've had a lot of nervous energy lately. So if you've ever passed my house, there are like 7 million painted rocks. Like I've painted mangoes and I've painted dinosaurs and cars and whatever. But I would totally be good with painting like Glencoe welcomes rocks and putting those, in with that little packet
It's
from
nice.
the village or whatever, along with the handwritten note.
I think that's delightful.
Thank you.
All right, I will add that to the help wanted list with your names next to it. Thank you, Anise and Margot. And then Amy or Anise, in terms of the themes versus no themes, in my view, you're the person who has sort of moved this sort of getting to know the heart of Glencoe concept along. And so it seems to me like if it doesn't feel right, then that's not something like I like where your intention started with that. And I think that is what people responded to. So in my view, just one view, there's no reason to mess with that. And then I can also see how what you're trying to accomplish with that getting to know the heart of Glencoe column sort of tracks with these other, whatever proposed oral history project we might have moving forward in terms of like untold Glencoe stories. So I'm personally very comfortable with you continuing it, but I would love for you to continue it. And if you need a list of folks who I'm curious about, I'm happy to provide it. I'm really, really interested in the family that owns the Subway behind the Dunkin' Donuts in the strip mall, right at the start of Glencoe, kind of on the border with Hubbard Woods. But there's probably a lot of other folks like that you just feel like we see every day. We know just enough about them. They know our sandwich orders because we've been coming in for 10 years, but we don't know their last names, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I would appreciate like a list of people. That would be helpful. And Sharon, would it be okay if when it starts up again, there's sort of like getting to know the heart of Glencoe is back. We just took a little hiatus so that it's just not weird that it's been like gone and then it's back. Like Dear Abby is every day, except for Sundays.
We're volunteers,
I don't
Annie,
every day.
so
I know, but I still feel bad. It feels weird.
I don't think you need to feel badly, but I agree that we could, punch it up a little bit. Some
Just
kind
say
of
it's been
explanation.
missed, and say it's been missed.
Back by popular demand.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's back from summer break.
Yeah.
I'd really like to touch on the speaker series and then also this related writers theater thing. But I'm mindful of the fact that we have 9 minutes left. Is there anything else aside from those two things that anyone else really wants to get at in tonight's meeting? And we don't technically only have now 8 minutes left, but I try and be thoughtful about the time. So anything else on anyone's, like, any spread up the welcome baskets, which I thought was really productive. Anyone else have anything like that kind of cooking in their brains? You don't have to make a PowerPoint, you can just share. Okay. Put it in the chat if it comes that you have something else, but otherwise, John and Amy, thank you very much for shepherding this speaker series along without, really any support from the outside. I'm really excited about where you're headed. Do you have a slightly longer than the 5-cent tour that you gave earlier about where you think this is going and what support you might need from us to move it along?
Sure. Amy, did you want me to address it, or would you
Yeah,
like?
please do. You're more
Yeah.
central.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, Amy and I connected with one of the two speakers that we had in mind. His name is Ilya Shaiman. He expressed a lot of interest in speaking and being part of the series. He indicated he's pretty flexible on timing. I told him that I had initially said it might be in the fall when we first reached out to him, but I said that given all the things we have going on already this fall, that it would probably realistically be more viable to do it in January, December. And after that, Amy and I connected and sort of concluded that January at the earliest is probably best with the holidays and everything else. Little background on him. And some of this may be a repeat of last time, but Ilya was a refugee from Russia, a Jewish refugee from Russia, came here when he was 4, and adapted very well to U.S. life, in part through what he told us was a welcoming and inclusive community that he was a part of, which I believe was Waukegan. Because of that, he has become very involved in sponsoring refugees through Refugee One, and is currently a sponsor of an individual named Hekmet Ibrahimi, who's from Afghanistan and came here last fall. He is studying for his MBA, and we don't have 100% confirmation that he will be part of the series, but Mr. Scheinman was pretty confident that he would also be interested and that they would do it together. And their focus, or what we said we'd like them to focus on, is kind of connecting their personal stories to the community and the importance of inclusive communities to help with transitions of people like them. And sort of educate, I guess, folks on why it can really matter to the lives of people who may not necessarily be from a particular community, to have support from others in their town or their village or their city, whatever it may be. And he understood that and said that he was confident they would be able to kind of connect their compelling sort of personal stories and experiences to that theme or that objective of our group. So the takeaway, I guess, bottom line takeaway, is we think he's going to be really good, and will do a really good job. So we're kind of at the point, again, subject to everyone in the group agreeing to sort of ironing out the logistics and just getting a firm date and kind of planning from there. And
And I
happy
think
to folks have questions.
Sorry, I was
answer.
just going to add that I think that yet to be done is to figure out how the night would flow, and how exactly how we get the right topics teed up and so forth. But he did he's clearly a good speaker and I think has done this before. So I think we'd be comfortable there. I have no idea about the other newer refugee, but yeah, we're really hopeful. It's gonna take us some distance to kind of helping people see how this fits every community. It isn't just ours. We're hoping.
Any comments, thoughts, questions?
And I would just also add that he did ask about a location. You know, I didn't make any promises, but I said in the past we had done things at Writers Theater, and that was I think would be a good space for this if they're willing to host.
I would expect that I can't speak for them, but we've been in very close conversation the last couple of weeks. And so, and I know that just sort of strategically, the organization is looking to be more of the building was intended to be used by the community in a more purposeful way. And, you know, COVID was not anything any of us planned on, but I think that they're kind of looking to make their entree back into that. So my sense is that they would be open to it. And I can ask the woman who I have been working with there if she knows who we should connect with, and then connect that person with you guys around that. But my sense is that they, you know, would be, I think they're dark on Tuesdays, so it might need to be a Tuesday night. I will verify that, but more to come. If that's your desired location, I don't think it will be a problem.
Yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts about speaker series?
Just that I think it sounds amazing. Thank you for putting all that work into it. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to listen to him speak.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good to hear.
It's really great. Thank you guys very much, and also for your patience. I just the calendar is ticking away too quickly on my end. So I think it's actually a really nice thing to have to look forward to in the new year. January is always kind of a quiet time, and so let's get that date firmed up and the space nailed down, and determine how we can best help support you guys and publicize it. So with that, quick holler back to Writers Theater. I mentioned that we have been in conversation with them initially at Sharon's request. We connected with their team again, because they're looking to kind of emerge from the pandemic and reestablish themselves as a community center. So I was thrilled to hear that they have a community relations component to the work that they do. And so there's some nice overlap in terms of where they're hoping to go with their programming related to upcoming productions and the work that we're trying to do around inclusivity. For starters, they are doing a community open house on September 18th, which is a Sunday. So it will be similar, and they've invited partners like GCIC and other folks to come in and just sort of be highlighted within that space. We would, again, that's another help wanted. But I think we are only permitted to have 2 volunteers because we'll be seated with the Sustainability Task Force. And I think it's literally just a space concern. So they'll have 2 and we'll have 2. I didn't put that on the help wanted because I need to figure out how that's going to work. But in any case, you should definitely plan to come out to that regardless and see, you know, what other community partners are up to and support the Writers Theater, who I think are going to be great partners for us moving forward. Then they, I believe the opening of their new show, Tiger Style, is officially October 7th, but I have tickets for October 2nd. So I don't know exactly how that all works, but sometime end of September, early October, they are opening their newest production, Tiger Style. And it's about, I believe, Chinese brother and sister living in the United States. Nothing's going their way in the United States. And then so they say like, well, maybe if we lived in China, things would be better, or, and it's, I think, a bit of a farce, but also a lot of social commentary. And in conjunction with that, the Writers Theater is hoping to launch a series of discussions about the Asian American diaspora and sort of issues raised by the production. And they're working with a professor at Northwestern named Michelle Hung. She is a cultural consultant. And so they've asked us to consider sort of co-producing that panel with them. The date that they are looking at is Tuesday, October 18th, I think. And, we need to solidify a few more of the details, I think, on the village side to be sure that that's something that we can do, but mostly presenting this to you in terms of, does that sound interesting? Is that something you would be supportive of? Again, anyone want to jump in with me on that and help shepherd that forward? I think there's some really exciting possibilities with Writers Theater moving forward, particularly because so much of their programming looks at communities that we otherwise don't necessarily see a lot of in Glencoe. So anyway, that's what's happening with Writers
Great
Theater.
topic. Great topic.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you need? Well, so what do you think? It's a little broad. What do you need? You think?
I need someone to sit in on those conversations moving forward with writers. So right now that conversation is with Sharon because we need to give the village a better idea of what that panel discussion is going to look like. Kristen at the Writers Theater is going to be getting back to Sharon about that in the near term, so that she has a better understanding of what it is that they're asking. And so what I would like to do is loop someone in addition to me into this so that we can kind of share the workload there, and then maybe even I could fade to black. I'm reticent to give up any of these relationships. They all have become very important to me, but it just isn't good for the work if I'm the only one having those conversations. So I'd really just like a partner in terms of sort of advancing whatever the future of our relationship with the Writers Theater is moving forward, starting as soon as October 18th.
I think if Writers Theater is going to be having a discussion, and I might have misheard you because I was taking notes and maybe didn't write it down, but if there's going to be a discussion about topics like that, I think our committee's name should be associated with it so that there's continuity on the topic and this committee in the community across the board. I guess I'd be happy to help you. I don't know what my schedule looks like in October or in between now and October, but I think it's important.
Awesome. Well, I can loop you in if nothing else with where we are now. And I mean, I think it's any one of these initiatives is very manageable on its own. It's just when Raphael and I are the ones doing all of them, things start to get jammed up a little bit. So if you would be willing to partner with me on that, that would be huge. I would really appreciate it. I think you will love the staff at the Writers Theater. They've been amazing so far. They're so eager to support. And again, I just think it's a tremendous opportunity for us. So
You too.
I'd be happy to.
thank you. Okay, I will send the help wanted thing via Sharon back to you all in the near term. And then in terms of, we have to close out the meeting the proper way, but before we do that, Sharon, any thoughts about October meeting? How do we want to?
If the group would like to reschedule, as Hillary mentioned, our regular meeting cadence would conflict with the holiday. So we would be looking for a new date. The alternatives are to pick a new date or to skip October and pick back up in November. I could float a couple of dates. It might be easiest in the interest of time if I check the village's calendar and then float a few dates. for your availability, and then we could work to reschedule that.
Do
I
we
think
no
it's-
longer have our alternate meeting date of the third Wednesday of the month on our, like, sort of, I remember at one point.
We were meeting every other week. You're right.
Oh, and we decided to keep that second one open if we needed it. And
Yeah, that's a good point,
I think
Margaret.
that's a good date. I would hate to miss a month when all this is going on.
Well, and it would also be just a few days before that potential October
Yeah,
23rd
right.
meeting.
Yeah. Mhm.
Just by a quick kind of show of
Wow.
hands or head nod, I've got the gallery view here. Does the 19th at 5:30 work, or should I float a few other dates?
Or
Works for me.
Or the 12th, yeah, but I can do it.
Okay, I'm seeing mostly head nods, so okay, I will send that out to the group.
Thank you, Sharon, and thanks
You're
guys for being flexible about that. If we can get enough, let's get these small groups cooking, and these meetings will be lickety split. You won't have to watch any more of my slideshows. With that, I believe, back to my agenda, is there any other business, Sharon?
Not unless anyone from the group would like to raise any. I do see we have a hand raised from one of our attendees. Hillary, if you'd like to take a comment, you can.
Friends, do we have 5 more minutes to take a comment? I think that's important if we can.
Yep. Okay.
Go ahead, please. Oh, Miles, how are you?
Good. I'm not sure if I'm on video or I'm just audio.
Just audio.
Just
Just
audio.
audio. Okay. So good to see everybody. Thank you all for your volunteer time. I always appreciate everybody going off their own time to dedicate to making Glencoe a more inclusive place. Just want to make a comment on some of the good work that I see. So just a couple of things I think that came up in the meeting. There were some remarks about Glencoe's Black history and some comments around a couple of individuals. Actually, I was kind of cutting in and out. I caught part of it. I think John's remarks, a couple of individuals who were very successful that came from Glencoe. And I think, from my perspective, it's really important to show how individuals of color are succeeding, living the American dream. And it's great to see that being highlighted from this committee. And then the second thing I think that came up was a speaker that was from a refugee community. And similar kind of story. The story, I work with a group called the African Leadership Group, and they are amazing because they come to America, they see all of the opportunities that are offered by our incredible country, and they are role models to others in the community. Sometimes only the African community, sometimes the African American community. And by highlighting the stories of refugees, by allowing immigrants to come tell their story, I think it tells a great story of resilience. And one of the concerns I've always had as a committee member, or not a committee member, as a wannabe committee member or shadow committee member, whatever you want to call me, is that there is a potential to disenfranchise those that really kind of, maybe they come from right of center, they're Republican, more conservative, or they're just a Democrat who has these beliefs too, is that by not paying enough attention to the stories of success, that we could in turn disenfranchise those that believe that there are great opportunities. And it's not just stories of victimhood. So I just want to point out that I think that is awesome that you guys are promoting that. I'd like to see more. I do think that that does make Glencoe feel, and this work, feel much more inclusive. It makes everyone feel like they're a part of that. Who doesn't want to join that and support those wonderful opportunities? So thank you for your leadership, and thank you for thinking about making sure that we highlight those great stories. So thank you.
Thanks, Miles. That's really nice to hear. Actually, I appreciate it. And mostly I cannot take credit for the Glencoe Historical Society's work. I think you're going to love this exhibit. It's tremendous. it more importantly has, they've worked really closely with the St. Paul AME community, so that it does feel organic, and celebratory without, sort of gilding the lily, if you will. So thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. We will try to endeavor to continue to keep up the good work. And with that, any other hands raised or other business, Sharon?
No.
Awesome. So we have confirmed-ish that our next meeting will be on October 19th, same time, same station, so as to not interfere with the Jewish high holidays. And may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I so move.
A second.
Okay,
Roll call vote?
Co-chair Scott,
Yes.
member Bjork,
Yes.
member Evans,
Yes.
member Flanagan,
Yes.
member Molly,
Yes.
member Moses,
Yes.
member Mizell,
Yes.
member Rubin,
Yes.
and member Young.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. We are adjourned. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of the sunshine. Be
Yeah.
well.
Thank you
Good night,
all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye,
for